Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good
Rabbi.
morning, Rabbi.
We are learning. That's it. That's it. Okay. We are learning Mishnah's Chagigah, Perek Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah, Mishnah 4. So until now, we have been discussing the stringencies of that the sages instituted regarding sacrifice meat over truma. And now we're actually going to go the other way around. We're going to find times where the sages were stricter when it comes to truma than when it comes to kodesh, to sacrifice meat. So the Mishnah reads, Chaim truma, a stringency of truma over kodesh meat, shebi Yehuda ne'emanim al taharas yayin v'shemen kol yemais hashana. In the area of Eretz Yisrael, Yehuda, Judea, the Am Haaretz, again an Am Haaretz, as we've mentioned previously, is someone who is ignorant or not well versed in the laws of Tum and Tahara, and therefore they are not as careful with it as they should be. And the sages instituted that because of that, since they're Amei Haaretz, ignorant people, that you cannot rely on them to say that something is pure. The halacha, the sages instituted that whatever an Am Haaretz were to touch actually becomes impure. It's rabbinic impurity. So any food, beverage, or utensil that they touch will generally become tamei. So now the Mishnah says that a Am Haaretz in the province of Yehuda, in the area of Judea, are trusted regarding the purity of wine and oil. They are trusted regarding the purity of wine and oil of hektish, wine or oil that's been designated for usage as a sacrifice, the wine being the wine libation and the oil being for mixing with the meal offering, kol yamais hashana, all year round. So that means like this. When it comes to something, the Am Haaretz is presenting something, and he's telling you that something is tahar. Now, generally, he can't be trusted about that. When it comes, though, to kodesh, when it comes to things that you're going to use as an offering, as a sacrifice, that even the Amei Haaretz take serious. And therefore, if they present to you some kind of a wine, and they say, this wine is tar, this wine I have designated to use for an nesachem, let's say he's planning on bringing a carbon, right? And therefore he's bringing the nesachim, he's bringing the wine libation. So, and he says that this wine is pure, meaning it could be used for the nesachim, for the wine libation. The halacha is you can trust him, even though he's an Am Haaretz. If, let's say, he has this olive oil that he produced. Now, again, this is something he produced. He's telling you from beginning to end, everything's good. And he's telling you about this olive oil, that it's pure and it's been designated, it's been sanctified to be used in menachas for a meal offering. You can trust him, because when it comes to these kinds of objects of sanctity that will be used as a carbon, as a sacrifice, for that you can trust him, but not for truma.
Not for truma.
Not for truma. Why? Because truma, they don't take it serious. They're more serious about something to be used as a sacrifice than something that'll be truma. Something used for a sacrifice is at a higher level of sanctity than truma. So when it comes to something that'll be used for a sacrifice, that they take very serious, and they watch it, and you can trust them when they say it's been watched. The rabbinic decree there doesn't apply. When it comes to truma, though, if they tell you, I watched it, I took care of it, everything's fine, you can't trust them. You can't trust them. Again, we'll see, we're talking about a person who's a chaver, a person who is careful about purity and impurity. He can't trust him. There, so it comes out, you have a stringency of truma over kodesh, because the truma from the Am Haaretz, you can't trust him. If he gives you a truma, you have to assume that it's impure. But if he goes and he tells you that this is wine that's going to be used for a sacrifice and it's pure, it's been used for the nesachim and it's pure, then the halacha is you can trust him. Now, 1 second. Now this, and this is kol yemais hashana, all year round. All year round, generally all year round, you can trust him regarding the wine and the oil the wine and the oil that's going to be used in a carbon. It's going to be used as offered on the mizbeach, on the altar, and you cannot trust him regarding truma. Ubishas hagitais v'abadim, but during the period of gitais means wine pressing, v'abadim is all olive pressing. During those seasons, you can trust the Am Haaretz af al ha-truma, even regarding truma. When it comes to those seasons, those times of the year, excuse me, those times of the year are when, let me read here from the notes, during the harvest and pressing seasons, all Jews, even Amei Haaretz, would purify their utensils and themselves to ensure that the truma about to be separated from their produce would remain tar. Therefore, if Amei Haaretz assert during this season that their truma is tar, we trust them. Meaning, when you're first separating the truma, everybody's careful. But after that season is over and it's been hanging around, then when it comes to truma, you cannot rely on the Am Haaretz that he is taking care of it properly. Because then he's not careful about himself, about his utensils. He's not careful enough then. And therefore, they're abundant, the sages decreed, you can't trust them. So again, all year round, the Am Haaretz tells you about the truma that it's pure, and tells that Kayin it's pure, you can eat it, you can't trust them. If he brings wine or oil and he presents it to a Kohen to say, this is pure, this wine or oil that I have designated to be used in the Sachim or in the Carbon Mincha, that they're pure, you can trust them. Because when it comes to objects of Kodesh, objects that are consecrated to be offered on the Mizbeach, you can trust them. That's all year round. And you can go ahead and trust them even on Truma during the pressing season. Because during that season, when they're first pressing everything and separating the truma, then even the Amei Haaretz are very careful to make sure that everything is done in purity. Now, what's interesting to note is the Mishnah said, Shebi Yehuda. In Yehuda, they are trusted. How about anywhere else? Anywhere else they're not trusted? So explanation is the following. Although the Mishnah states its law in regard to Judea, the same law would have applied to the Galilee as well. Eretz Yisrael had two parts, right? North and south. Yehuda and the Galil. So essentially, the same law would have applied in Galilee as well, except for the following reason. Since non-Jews of Mishnaic times did not always mark their graves, the rabbis decreed tuma upon anything that enters non-Jewish land due to the possibility that it may have passed over an unmarked grave. That's called tumas eretz ha'amim, the tuma of the land of the nations. Outside of Eretz Yisrael, they're not careful about where those non-Jews are not careful where the graves are, and therefore they're because of the possibility that because of that it could become impure. So the halacha is that they said just going in there is going to make things impure. Now, the land of Israel at this time was divided into two provinces, Judea and the Galilee, which were separated by a strip of non-Jewish land populated by Kusim, a pagan group. So you basically had a strip of land going in between the two sections of Eretz Yisrael where there were pagans or non-Jews living. This meant that any wine or oil sent from Galilee to Judea, where the Beis HaMikdash was located, had to pass through the land of the Kusim, and thus became tamei before reaching its destination. So since it was impossible for Galilean wine to have reached the Beis HaMikdash in a tar state, the Mishnah stated its law only in regard to Judea. So that's why it said Yehuda. That's the only time it was practical. Okay, so that's the first part of the Mishnah, where we're saying that we have this the stringency we have of truma over the stringency of truma over Kodesh, that you can trust the Am Haaretz regarding Kodesh, but you cannot trust him regarding truma. Okay, we'll continue this Mishnah tomorrow. I'll do the Chofetz Chaim. Okay, so the Chofetz Chaim began saying that if you see somebody doing something wrong, and it falls under the category of ben adam l'makom, between mitzvah between Hashem and a person, we're not talking about mitzvahs between one Jew and another Jew, and the situation there was you saw him do something that is wrong, halacha, you know it's wrong what he did, that does not necessarily give you license to go ahead and tell people about it. No difference whether this is a prohibition or a positive commandment that he's not keeping from the Torah, that everybody knows is forbidden to keep or to transgress. You start telling somebody that this person did something obviously wrong, that definitely is going to disgrace this person. But even afilim hu davar she'enis harin bazeh har b'mani Yisrael. V'lei bazeh Hashem gnus kol kach. But let's say you're talking about something, you want to tell people about something that is not as well known as forbidden. People don't take it as, it's a general problem that people don't take it as serious. So now if you tell other people about it, you won't be putting the guy down so much. You say about somebody who doesn't want to learn Torah. It's a common problem. It's a common thing that people don't always necessarily understand the severity of. Or let's say it's a situation where what he said wasn't true. People aren't truthful. That's not an uncommon problem. Anything similar, meaning things that if you say it over about the person, he will not be as disgraced by saying it. Nonetheless, you're not allowed to say it. At the end of the day, you are saying about this person, he does not fulfill the laws of the Torah, and that is degrading someone. And even if we're talking about what he calls the branches, things that branch off the mitzvahs, closer to speak details of a mitzvah. The Torah says, remember Shabbos. The Sefer Charedim, which is a book that goes through the mitzvahs of the Torah, it says that honoring Shabbos properly with your money, with having a nice meal, all these things fall under Zachar. And you say about a person, hey, he's kind of stingy, right? And the Shabbos table is pretty schwach, pretty weak. Let's say some kind of rabbinic prohibition. They said initially something you shouldn't do. If at the end of the day, no matter how less serious do you want to make this thing that you're saying about the person, if at the end of the day you're saying about him that he did something wrong, and you, even if you know it, nonetheless it is forbidden to say, even if he will not be as so disgraced by you saying it over. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We have a minion.